Another day, another story. Explore 10 true stories of the Wild West, some of them stranger than fiction. Welcome to the Eminent channel. 1. Failed bandit Elmer McCurdy's corpse had a more interesting life than the man did. In 1911, Elmer McCurdy mistakenly robbed a passenger train he thought contained thousands of dollars. The disappointed outlaw made off with just $46 and was shot by a lawman shortly thereafter. McCurdy's unclaimed corpse was then embalmed with an arsenic preparation, sold by the undertaker to a traveling carnival and exhibited as a sideshow curiosity. For about 60 years, McCurdy's body was bought and sold by various haunted houses and wax museums for use as a prop or attraction. His corpse finally wound up in a Long Beach, California, amusement park funhouse. During filming there in 1976 for the television show The $6 Million Man, the prop's finger, or arm, depending on the account, broke off, revealing human tissue. Subsequent testing by the Los Angeles coroner's office revealed the prop was actually McCurdy. He was buried at the famous Boot Hill Cemetery in Dodge City, Kansas, 66 years after his death. 2. Feral camels once roamed the plains of Texas. One of the wackier ideas in American history, the U.S. Camel Corps was established in 1856 at Camp Verde, Texas. Reasoning that the arid Southwest was a lot like the deserts of Egypt, the army imported 66 camels from the Middle East. Despite the animals' more objectionable qualities, they spat, regurgitated and defied orders, the experiment was generally deemed a success. As the Civil War broke out, exploration of the frontier was curtailed and Confederates captured Camp Verde. After the war, most of the camels were sold, some to Ringling Brothers Circus, and others escaped into the wild. The last reported sighting of a feral camel came out of Texas in 1941. Presumably, no lingering descendants of the Camel Corps members remain alive today. Feral camels once roamed the plains of Texas and other parts of the American Southwest. In the mid-19th century, the U.S. Army experimented with the use of camels as pack animals in the arid regions of the West. The United States Camel Corps, established in the 1850s, imported camels from the Middle East and North Africa. During the Civil War and after the project was abandoned, some of these camels were released or escaped into the wild. For years, reports of feral camels roaming the southwestern deserts and plains persisted. Even today, there are occasional reports of sightings, though the population of feral camels in the United States is minimal compared to historical numbers. 3. Thanks to a Winchester rifle, we know Billy the Kid wasn't left-handed. A famous tintype photograph of Billy the Kid shows him with a gun belt on his left side. For years, the portrait fueled assumptions that the outlaw, born William Boney, was left-handed. However, most tintype cameras produced a negative image that appeared positive once it was developed, meaning the end result was the reverse of reality. There's another reason we know the picture was a mirror image and that Billy the Kid was thus a righty. He poses with his Winchester Model 1873 lever-action rifle. The weapon appears to feature a loading gate on the left side, but Winchester only made 1873s that load on the right. 4. The California Gold Rush of 1849 wasn't America's first gold rush. It wasn't even the second. When young Conrad Reed found a large yellow rock in his father's field in Cabarrus County, North Carolina, in 1799, he had no idea what it was. Neither did his father, John Reed. The family reportedly used it as a doorstop for several years, until a visiting jeweler recognized it as a 17-pound gold nugget. The rush was on. Eventually, Congress built the Charlotte Mint to cope with the sheer volume of gold dug up in North Carolina. In 1828, gold was discovered in Georgia, leading to the nation's second gold rush. Finally, in 1848, James Marshall struck it rich at Sutter's Mill in California, and thousands of 49ers moved west to seek their fortunes. 5. The famed gunfight at the OK Corral wasn't much of a shootout and didn't take place at the OK Corral. One of the most famous gunfights in history, the shootout between the three Earp brothers, Morgan, Virgil and Wyatt, Doc Holliday, Billy Claiborne, the two Clanton brothers, Billy and Ike, and the two McClory brothers, Frank and Tom, didn't amount to much. Despite the involvement of 8 people, the gunfight only lasted about 30 seconds. Furthermore, the shootout didn't take place within the OK Corral at all. Instead, all the shooting occurred near the current intersection of 3rd Street and Fremont Street in Tombstone, Arizona, which is behind the corral itself. Bloodshed made up for the brevity, though 3 of the lawmen were injured and 3 of the cowboys killed. 6. The Long Branch Saloon of Gunsmoke fame really did exist in Dodge City, and still does. Sort of. Anyone who watched the television show Gunsmoke growing up is well acquainted with Miss Kitty's Long Branch Saloon of Dodge City, Kansas. What viewers may not have realized is that the Long Branch really did exist. No one knows exactly what year it was established, but the original saloon burned down in the Great Front Street Fire of 1885. The saloon was later resurrected and now serves as a tourist attraction featuring a reproduction bar with live entertainment. According to the Boot Hill Museum, the original Long Branch Saloon served milk, tea, lemonade, sarsaparilla, alcohol and beer. Marshall Maddillon and Festus sporting milk mustaches. Now there's a storyline. 7. One pivotal Civil War battle was fought in an unlikely place, New Mexico. In a bold move designed to fill rebel coffers with Cripple Creek gold, Confederate General Henry Hopkins Sibley invaded New Mexico Territory from the south in early 1862, believing he could march right up the Rio Grande and take Colorado. Unbeknownst to Sibley, however, the 1st Regiment of Volunteers in Colorado caught wind of the scheme and marched 400 miles south in just 13 days to join the Yankees at Fort Union, near Santa Fe. Instead of a cakewalk, Sibley's forces wound up fighting what many historians call the Gettysburg of the West. After just 2 days of skirmishing, Union troops, probably relying on local ranchers as guides, outflanked the Confederates and burned their supply train. After that, it was a long, slow march back to Texas for the rebels, who never returned. The Battle of Glorieta Pass, a significant and often overlooked battle during the American Civil War. It took place in the New Mexico Territory in March 1862. The Confederate Army, aiming to control the Southwest and its resources, advanced into New Mexico. Union forces, along with Hispanic and Native American volunteers, engaged the Confederates at Glorieta Pass. This battle was crucial because it halted the Confederate advance. Union forces, despite being outnumbered, managed to destroy Confederate supply wagons, effectively crippling the Confederate Army's ability to continue its campaign in New Mexico. The Battle of Glorieta Pass had far-reaching consequences, preventing the Confederates from gaining a stronghold in the Southwest and thus impacting the overall course of the Civil War. 8. Forget Jamestown. The oldest settlement in the United States is Yakima Pueblo. It's no revelation that Native American settlements predate European ones, but it may surprise some people that Yakima Pueblo, west of Albuquerque, New Mexico, has been continuously occupied since the 12th century. The Yakima still inhabit their Sky City, a settlement of about 4,800 people that sits atop a 365-foot-high mesa. Traditionally hunters and traders, the Yakima people now make their income from a cultural center and casino complex. Coincidentally, the oldest state capital in the United States is Santa Fe, which recently celebrated its 400th anniversary. Acima Pueblo, also known as Sky City, is considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in the United States. Located in present-day New Mexico, Acima Pueblo has been inhabited for over 1,000 years. The pueblo sits atop a 367-foot sandstone mesa and has a rich cultural and historical significance to the Native American Acima people. Acima Pueblo's ancient structures and its status as a continuously inhabited community make it one of the oldest settlements in North America, predating the arrival of Europeans. 9. The first film Cowboy wasn't a cowboy at all. Widely credited with inventing the Western film genre, Bronco Billy Anderson, star of 1903's The Great Train Robbery, was born Maxwell Henry Aronson in 1880, the son of a traveling Arkansas salesman. As soon as Aronson was old enough, he hightailed it to New York City, where he produced or acted in literally hundreds of films. Cast somewhat by chance in The Great Train Robbery, Aronson decided to capitalize on its success by creating the Bronco Billy persona. Aronson ended up writing and starring in dozens of short Western films, becoming the first cowboy matinee idol. The first film Cowboy wasn't a cowboy in the traditional sense. The honor of being the first film cowboy goes to Bronco Billy Anderson, who appeared in the short film The Great Train Robbery in 1903. In the film, Anderson played a bandit, not a cowboy. However, his character and subsequent roles in other early Western films set the stage for the cowboy archetype in cinema. Anderson's portrayal laid the foundation for the cowboy figure that would become iconic in the Western film genre. 10. Jesse James was larger than life, so much that his body required 2 graves. Few outlaws were as notorious during their own lifetimes as Jesse James. Though he lived a quiet existence in Kearney, Missouri, after his bank robbing days were over, old friends and enemies never forgot him. After Jesse was murdered, he was buried in the front yard of his farm to thwart grave robbers. As the years passed and his enemies died off, he was reinterred in a Kearney cemetery by his family. So who's that lying in the Jesse James grave in Granbury, Texas? A man named J. Frank Dalton, who came forward around 1948, at age 101, claiming he was the real Jesse James. A court even allowed him to legally adopt the bandit's name. No one knows why Dalton made this claim or if he ever had any link to Jesse James. Regardless, mitochondrial DNA showed decades later that James is indeed buried in Mount Olivet Cemetery in Kearney, but his legend also lives on in Granbury. Jesse James, the notorious American outlaw from the Old West, has a story involving 2 graves. After his death in 1882, there was a dispute over the authenticity of his body. Some people doubted that the body in the grave was actually Jesse James. To address these doubts, his mother, Zerelda James, had him reburied in a different location in Missouri. This second burial site was meant to put the rumors to rest and confirm that the man buried there was indeed Jesse James. This unusual circumstance led to the outlaw having 2 graves, adding to the mystique surrounding his life and death. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.